Hey, this is Matt. Once again, welcome back to another video, and this is another paid request, this time for Enrico. Thank you so much for that. One of two requests, actually. I'll get to the other as soon as I possibly can. I'm sorry for the lateness, but thank you for your patience. But he wanted me to look at superhero movie from 2008. And before I go on, if anyone wants to request any type of video, whether movie review, re-review, thought streams, commentaries, video game playthroughs, random movie news or a topic or tier list or ranking or whatever the case may be, reaction, whatever, feel free. PayPal is the best way to do it. I do have a CashApp as well. Links are down below in the info box. I will get to as soon as I possibly can. For those who sent them, thank you. I really do appreciate it. Now, superhero movie from 2008. I always kept thinking this was made by the same guys who did Date Movie, Epic Movie, Disaster Movie, Meet the Spartans. Which is funny, Meet the Spartans I just reviewed for someone else very recently. And they both, this and that, came out the same year, 2008. But no, Seltzer and Berger, they made those other films, two untalented twat waffles who can't write a joke to save their life. The amount of talent wouldn't fit a fucking thimble or a napkin. This, I know there are people that liked this film. There are people who are fans of this film. There's people who think this film's hilarious. And if you do, to each their own, that's cool. I'm just not one of them. I will say this, it's a slim bit of better than those other movies I mentioned because Leslie Nielsen's in it. He tries. And it's always nice to see Leslie Nielsen. With his deadpan demeanor and how he says certain lines of dialogue and just his nature. There's one genuine laugh I got out of this, which was because of him, which I'll get to that later. But stuff like that, some other people in the cast, like Christopher McDonald as the villain. Always great to see Christopher McDonald. He was Shooter McGavin in Happy Gilmore. Done a ton of other stuff. It's always great to see him in a movie. There's definitely a lot of familiar faces in this. You have Drake Bell from Drake and Josh. He's the star. You have Kevin Hart as Drake's buddy. You have, I'll mention Leslie Nielsen. He plays Drake Bell's uncle. Christopher McDonald is the villain, who's going to be the supervillain named Hourglass, because what he does is he takes people and sucks their life force so they grow older and die, and he cures the ailment that the ailment that if he doesn't do this he'll die. Other people, Tracy Morgan is in the film in a few scenes as Xavier, Charles Xavier. Regina Hall is in the film, who's in some of the early scary movie films. Chief David is in one scene, or at least a few scenes, as a policeman. Who else was in this? Brent Spiner, Data from Star Trek The Next Generation. He's here as the villain's scientist, cohort, secretary, however you want to put it. Not secretary, but assistant, I'll put it. You also have Pamela Anderson. She's in one scene as the Invisible Woman. I forget the guy's name, but if you remember Scary Movie 3, the guy who's in the 8 Mile parodies, who is playing the Eminem character, I think his first name is Simon. He's in this, and one scene as the Human Torch. Robert Hayes from Airplane 2, he's in this as Drake's dead father. We see him in flashbacks, which they're parodying Batman, the way Batman's parents died. I'm trying to think, is there anyone else? Robert Joy, I've seen in a few films like Land of the Dead. He's Stephen Hawkins. There might have been a few others that I just don't remember right now. But a lot of recognizable people. And like I said, it's not, Seltzer and Berger is not involved with this. It's directed by, I guess, David Zucker, which worked on, those early Airplane, Naked Gun films. He would later direct Scary Movie 3 and I think 4. I guess David Zucker he was originally going to direct this, but then he became just a producer, and they gave it to this guy, Craig Mazin. I would just say Mazin. This guy went on to do Chernobyl, that HBO show, which I only saw 1 or 2 episodes, but what I saw looked pretty good. And I guess he helped make that Last of Us TV show, which I never saw. But it just doesn't, I mean, you look at those, I mean, they're not comedies. So it's weird, early on he would do a comedy like this, let alone a parody. And like I said, I know people liked this. Like, you did find reviews and reactions that people will get behind this film, and again, teach their own. I'll say it's a smidgen better than, again, Meet the Spartans and those movies, but I don't think by much. It doesn't touch Airplane, Airplane 2, National Lampoon's Loaded Weapon 1, Hot Shots Part 2, Scary Movie 1 and 2. It doesn't touch any of those parodies, to me. And it's a short film with 14 minutes of credits, including deleted bits, which Beat the Spartans did that too, which I don't understand this. You do a film, the film's like an hour and change, right? Very short. So you have these extended credits from 14 to 15 to 18 minutes long, in this case 14 minutes. And then, okay, I've seen movies where they show outtakes, Jackie Chan films, I think some of the Burt Reynolds, like Cannonball Run, I believe, did that, 1 and 2. But these are literally deleted scenes, and I'm sitting there going, so usually you delete a scene because you don't want people to see it if they buy a DVD, Blu-ray, but that wasn't, you delete it because you thought it wasn't worth putting in the film. It would ruin the pacing. But then you just still put them as part of the film, but at the end. It's like, well, so obviously you like these deleted scenes so much, or either A, we desperately need to have this at a certain time, because a movie theater's not going to take a movie that's so short because it screws up their timing, and you need to be a certain time, you have a certain length, well, we'll use these deleted scenes to pad it out. Well, then just put them back within the film. I don't know. And other than one, there may be a couple that were okay gags. It does one of those things where it'll tell a joke, but then they'll have the joke keep going. Again and again and again, as in it gets longer and longer and longer. And even if it was remotely kind of funny, it loses it by the time you stretched it out. Like, so many jokes are stretched out, and they feel that if we repeat it, so if he gets hit once, if he gets hit 3 more times, then it's funny. It's like, no. You're being repetitive, and then you just go. If you were annoyed, you get more annoyed. If you thought it was kind of funny, then it's like, okay, yeah, okay, we did. Can we move on? Okay, we did. And that's how you start feeling, at least for me. Now, for the most part, this is a Spider-Man parody. Drake Bell plays the character Rick, who's pretty much like Peter Parker. You have the scene where he's running for the bus. Only this, he gets hit literally like 3, 4, 5 times by the bus or other things. Then he gets on the bus, and just like in Spider-Man, he's the first movie by Sam Raimi, he's trying to find a way to sit, and there's a girl he loves, but he can't sit there, so he sits with Kevin Hart. And again, even the stuff, like, Kevin Hart has all this stuff, he's like drinking weird stuff and doing all this stuff, and it keeps going, and it thinks if it keeps going, that means the longer it goes, the funnier it is. It's usually not the case, especially not in this. If you do that, you really have to work on the timing, and you really have to make sure the gag is worth that elongated time that you're putting into it. So Kevin Hart, a dad they'll look around the bus, and Kevin Hart's like, hey, you want to be part of a clique? There's the Starface Society, and it's people dressed like Al Pacino and Starface. There's the Frodos, and it's people who are hobbits. Like, that's a gag. That's a joke. They go on a school trip. Brent Spiner is the scientist showing them around. There's all these bugs and insects that they say have been doused in stuff, including dragonflies. Drake Bell, he screws up. He did some stuff on him, and it's pheromones that makes animals sexually active. So the gag that goes on for like 2 minutes are various animals trying to hump him, trying to fuck him. So this animal's trying to sex him up. This one's trying to do it. This one's trying to do it. All these animals trying to hump him. And you think the gag is done. He spills more on his head. Brent Spiner, let me show you these. And it's a bunch of llamas and bigger animals wanting to hump him as well. Like, the one bit that made me almost laugh was there was a snail that was going very slow and said something like, hold them down for me, boys. Like, wait for me, boys. Like, something like that. And it was subtitled. That kind of almost made me laugh. Which has more than I could say for Beat the Spartans or Date Movie and all that shit. Now, if it had like 3 things where an animal kind of started looking at him funny, and another animal started looking at him funny, and you think they're going to hump him, and then the one that's trying to is the snail, and then like gets on his shoulder, and he looks, and it's just doing this, and there is a moment where the snail's arm's like, take it, bitch. If you just had that one thing, maybe that could have made the scene funnier, or funny. But it's like, oh, now this thing, now this thing, now this thing. It's like, it just gets old. It gets old real quick. It's like, okay, we did it. We did it. We did it. We did it. Move the fuck along. So while that's happening, a dragonfly gets loose and bites him on the neck. He goes home. Like I said, he has an aunt and uncle. His aunt, an uncle, or the uncle's Leslie Nielsen. Yeah, he's trying to do what he can with the movie, with these type of jokes. You have Christopher McDonald trying to be the Osborne of this movie. He needs to cure himself. He does an experiment. Dan Castellaneta, the voice of Homer Simpson, he's actually a guy who's going to shut the thing down and goes up to McDonald, and that's when McDonald grabs him and makes the guy old. So it cures for a little bit McDonald's character. And now he goes around grabbing people, sucking their life force out in order to stay consistently living. The type of jokes, there are times where Leslie Nielsen's just farting because Leslie stayed in bed with Drake Bell, and this is after he got bit. He's like, how long was I out? And then Leslie Nielsen answers him, then he keeps farting because, oh wow, Leslie Nielsen's in bed with him. Robert Joy, Stephen Hawking, there's this thing that happens where things go wrong, and you have to find it funny that Stephen Hawking says these things repeatedly because he has a weird voice, because his voice box thing, ain't it weird? So if he keeps saying these things like he likes women and he gets stuck and bees or killer bees on his head, and it's like, what is this shit, man? What is this shit? There's a point he gets contacted by Tracy Morgan or Xavier, and it's kind of like going in and out. And you can only pick up certain words that Tracy Morgan's saying. So the words you pick up is 2 girls, 1 cup. So there's your reference, your pop culture reference. If you don't know what that is, good. At one point he's brought to the Xavier school, and like, you could cut this whole scene out and it would not make a lick of a fucking difference. Other than it being shorter. because none of these characters show up later in the film. All this stuff with Xavier and the school and all these other superheroes, none of this comes up later. It's Xavier. It's funny because Tracy Morgan, he's on a wheelchair, then he's on a toilet that can move around. Or Regina Hall is talking to him about their kid, and he pulls out a doll, a baby doll that's in a wheelchair. Oh, baby wants to talk to you, and the baby's looking at it and makes Tracy Morgan fly off. Regina Hall's mad at Tracy Morgan because he was sleeping with the Invisible Woman, and Regina Hall and Pamela Anderson start smacking each other. There's a bit where Drake Bell makes his costume, but he forgot to put holes in it so he can't breathe. And he only notices this when Kevin Hart says it. So he's looking like this, and he's perfectly fine, but then Kevin Hart's like, oh, did you put something to breathe in? And then, oh, I can't breathe. So he's able to look at Kevin Hart, able to look at this, but then he goes, oh, how are you able to see? Now he doesn't know how to see, when he was just looking at Kevin Hart 30 seconds ago. But I know, you're not supposed to take that. It just goes on and on and on, man. There's a bit where he's in costume as the dragonfly, and he's perched on part of a roof, and Johnny Storm comes by. And he's like, here's my power. So he becomes on fire, but then he's surprised. Oh my God, I'm on fire. Put me out. So he's beating on the guy. No, do it some other way. So he gets a fire extinguisher, but then he beats him up with that. No, help me. He pours something, but it's gasoline. And then you never see the Human Torch guy ever again. Tom Cruise, a parody of him is randomly in the film, laughing and saying, I can fly. Then the next scene is a news person saying, Tom Cruise is dead. He could not fly. The aunt, at one point, is stuffing a turkey and puts a cat and vodka into the turkey. Remember the scene in Spider-Man when Tobey Maguire is hiding in his room on the ceiling and Willem Dafoe comes in and the drop of blood? Imagine that scene, but instead of a drop of blood, it's piss. He needed to go to the bathroom, he didn't make it, he's hiding, and piss keeps on dripping, and McDonald can't see it. Then he starts hiding in obvious places, but Christopher McDonald can't see him. And this goes on and on and on for like, it feels like 5 fucking minutes. The one joke I laughed at was when Leslie Nielsen has a nail gun and he turns and Drake Bell catches it. And Leslie says, wow, how'd you do that? Oh, it's easy to do. So Leslie Nielsen turns, looks at Kevin Hart, and then shoots him in the hand. And Kevin's like, ah! And Leslie Nielsen's like, no, I don't think so. And just the way, again, Leslie Nielsen's a pro. Even in some of the lesser films like Wrongfully Accused or Spy Hard that he starred in, at least they might not have been great or even that good of a movie compared to like his Naked Gun work and Airplane and stuff. But he was still charming. And unlike Spider-Man, the uncle does live. It's the aunt who dies. Oh, how did she die? Well, there's a scene where Drake Bell and the love interest, they're talking to each other, and I can't want to say grandma. The aunt is on the couch, and she keeps farting. So then they put something. She keeps farting again. Then they have a candle. And then she keeps farting. Then she keeps farting. Then she keeps farting. And ultimately, those two have to leave. Ultimately, Christopher McDonald pretty much kills the aunt off screen. At the funeral, again, a moment that kind of almost made me laugh was Leslie Nielsen says, no, please come back to me. No, please. Sir, that's not your wife. And he looks down as a much younger woman, and then he goes, oh, give me 5 minutes. So again, Leslie Nielsen, he tries. So Drake Bell gets depressed. I do like when Leslie Nielsen's like, take off that fake beard, and rips his fake beard off of Drake Bell. Yeah, I keep going back to Leslie Nielsen. It's always great to see him, even in something like this. I miss him. He decides to go to this conference where the bad guy's gonna do bad things and stops the bad guy, saves the girl. He grows his wings. He flies off. The last bit is him flying with the girl, and they both get hit by a helicopter. And then 14 minutes of credits start and keep going with a bunch of deleted scenes put in there. Drake Bell just does not impress me that much as an actor. I mean, he might as well be his character from Drake and Josh. I just see why Drake Bell did not get a lot of other roles. Kevin Hart, he's not in the film that much. He appears every once in a while, but he's not in it that much. And even then, I don't think he's really given a whole lot to do. Leslie Nielsen is fun, but then he disappears for a while because he gets hurt, shot, how you want to put it, and he's in the hospital for quite a bit of the movie. And then he's gone until kind of the beginning of the third act. Let's say Tracy Morgan, those scenes could have been put anywhere in the film and it would not matter. It's not like he goes back and those characters help out or anything in between. And the thing is, like, a parody on superhero films, especially today, I actually think is needed. There's been so many horrible superhero films that they pretty much are a parody. MODOK from Ant-Man 3 is a fucking parody. Okay? No matter how they want to word it, that's a fucking parody the way that looked. That one kid that he like appears in the air in Thor Love and Thunder, whatever the fuck that was, that's parody. And what's sad is that there's so many awful shit in these Marvel DC. The Flash, when he's running like this, and then the whole babies in the microwave. There's more ridiculous, stupid shit in the more legitimate superhero films than there were in this fucking movie. So yeah, I'll put this movie above the Marvels or the Flash or some of that shit. And again, there's little bits here and there. Like I mentioned that thing with the snail. Like there's little moments. But it wasn't enough for me. I guess I'll put it that way. It wasn't enough for me. But I mean, it is a short film. If you're a big Drake Bell fan, maybe you would get a fun out of this. It's interesting how the poster is like the scary movie posters. Like you looked at that, but the way this looks like it would have been a part of a scary movie franchise. Like they're in the theater and they're doing this, and that's why I'm surprised. I mean, yeah, this feels like it was sometimes like a wannabe scary movie sequel. Because again, Kevin Hart and Leslie Nielsen were in Scary Movie 3. Regina Hall was in that. I think she was in Scary Movie 3 as well. A lot of people have Scary Movie 3, so I guess the David Zuckers, like, had so much fun doing that. Okay, let's do this. And then again, he bailed out as the director, just became the producer. So there you go. So who knows? I don't like Scary Movie 3. Definitely don't like Steer Movie 4. If you're a fan of Steer Movie 3 and 4 and those type of parodies, maybe you would like this one. Like I said, I will put it above Meet the Spartans, Disaster, Epic, Date Movie, but like I said, there's a lot of fart jokes. Yeah, jokes that go on for too long. Drake Bell, I don't think had any charisma. I don't think he's a great lead. Maybe he could be serviceable on that show, Drake and but I wasn't even a big fan of that show, to be honest. So I don't like Drake Bell. I don't give a fuck about Drake Bell, if I'm being honest. Don't give a rat's ass about Drake Bell. Didn't grow up with the show. I watched a few of it, reviewed a few of it because there were requests. I'm like, okay, it is what it is. It ain't for me, but no. Leading man material, no. If you had someone that had maybe a bit better comic timing, deadpan quality, that could work. Have the jokes not go on for so fucking long. Tighten up the jokes. Don't have so many fucking fart gags. I think you got like Christopher McDonald and Leslie Nielsen. Regina Hall's talented. I like her. Keith David. He's barely in the movie. Like anybody could play that character. I don't know, man. But with that said, thanks for watching. Take care, and we'll see you guys later. Bye-bye for now.